And today we'll be looking at some first-person shooter game, and we'll be using some assets from the Unity asset store. So I picked up some of these assets. One of them is an environment, which is exterior environment, and also one interior one. We'll see how we can design a level, and I'm doing it on Unity and also using Playmaker. Hi, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so for the characters, NPC characters, will be using these stylist characters, which are free. I didn't find any interesting better characters, so I'll just hop onto Unity and get started with importing them. And hi, um, yeah, I'll just go to the package manager and import. Basically, I was confused between these two assets, but I think the interior one would not look that good. So I'll be going with this particular exterior environment so that we can use it to make some cool level. So just search for the RPG game assets. And this is Unity's asset store. You can browse if there are any good free assets. You can filter them in the view. So if I'm searching for character, you can just like put the price in down to 0 and or you can just choose like low to high price and you'll get a ton of characters. Yeah, you can sell assets in Unity Asset Store as well, but there's a lot of competition, is what I can say. There's a lot of just for character there are 500 3D models, 500 3D models. So yeah, I mean, like if you're if you think your quality beats everything else, then it'll do really good. And one other site is called Sketchfab and also Browser. But most people, if you're looking for, if your assets are really high quality and can compete in TurboSquid, you can upload it here as well. And they have specific models, model categories, and low poly is obviously one of the most demanded kind of assets now that NFTs have become really popular. So let's just see the showcase, and this is basically the number of assets that are included in the scene, and it looks really big and really useful. So yeah, we'll start off with using some of these assets and make a small map. And first, before all of this, we'll just import FPS FPS plugin that too from the same asset store, Unity Asset Store. So this one is called DC FPS. So I'll just quickly do that as well. I tried selling one 2D platformer kind of asset for the asset store, but um, I did not focus on it too much. But it I think it got rejected, and I had to rework it. But I didn't follow up on that. It's so this is the template that I created. So you can have a look at it if you're so I'll just get the FPS hands as well. And we also have weapons in one of the assets. I'll just link everything in the chat box so that you can um, quickly create a prototype or yeah. So it's called survival stylized characters, and you get 5 weapons for free. Since this is a series, I think we'll be covering a little of each mechanics that we need. Let's say the FPS camera itself and how to move, and we'll get started on that first, and then we'll use the asset, because if we directly use the asset, we won't actually know if um, we understand the mechanics behind it. Basically. So I'll just create a plane, and what I'll do is create a capsule, and then it's going to be our player. And we don't need a mesh renderer. We just need the capsule color. And I'll just turn on Gizmo so that we can see the bounding box of the capsule. Maybe reduce the direction light, And now what we need to do is create a mechanic where the player can look around and move towards where he's looking. So that's the trickier part where you need to move where you're looking. So I'll just reset the camera position and drop it into the capsule so that the capsule becomes the parent. And now if I reset the camera's position, it comes back to the capsule. So if I set the capsule, you can see that it's exactly in the center. And we just maybe something like that. And I'll quickly go to the FPS, easy FPS plugin and get the prefab. And I'll just drop the player here and see if we can see the hands and just get the hands from the easy FPS plugin. And looks like it is all set up and it's looking perfectly nice. Except there are some materials that are, I'm sorry if it's too low, that just reduce something. Yeah, this looks like it's working, but as you can see, it's a capsule instead of the play character. We can go into how that is done later, but for now, I think we can use this and create something like a pickup system for the ammo and stuff like that. So currently there's something wrong with the ammo part because I think it's just like having 9,999 magazines, I guess. So we can modify that in the gun inventory, which is here. And if we open it in Visual Studio, we can look at the code and see what's going on. So there's a core routine that's being followed. And I think this is completely set up, but we can either modify it or completely start from scratch instead of using the script. And what I'm going to do is remove this particular gun inventory script and try to play it. If there are errors, yeah, there are some errors. And also looks like there is dependency on the gun inventory for the gun as well. So we'll just keep it and remove the UI. So I'll do that by unpacking the prefab. So when you unpack prefab, you delete its dependency, what do you say, connectivity to the original prefab. So I'll just delete that, and or you can just disable it just because, like, if the script tries to access it, it might throw an error. Yeah, now it's all set up. And now we can get into the level design and make some interesting level. So I'll just delete the plane and go to the RPG FPS assets, and here we can find whatever what do we say assets that we are going to use in the game. So just quickly map out a small level, and then we can focus on adding enemies and pickups for the player to reload and stuff like that. So we just go to the road set and we add a straight road. Something like that. And we'll just see if they have any skybox. Yes. And I'll just go to the camera and change the skybox to yeah. Change the skybox to this one. It already looks good. So I'll just place some barrels and we'll just create a prefab for ammo so that we can go and use them, and the player picks up some ammo and it increases the ammo count. So that was one mechanic that we'll do today, and also add some enemies after this. So let's duplicate this barrel. Maybe reduce its size. Place it randomly so that it doesn't seem very natural. I will go to fences. Maybe get some roadblocks. And we have a wall set and in this asset pack, so we can just duplicate it and it will be the end of the level. So we can press V and snap it to a corner so that it doesn't go out of order. And this warehouse is looking pretty big and it doesn't have any place for the road. So I think, and it's also because the road is curved. Just curve it and place it on the ground. Now that we have a little part of the map, I think we can also duplicate this and put it on the other end. So like that. And for this part, I'll just get the scene first. For that FPS. yes, you can make a game without C sharp entirely using Playmaker. And if you want to look at tutorials, there's a channel called Filmstorm Studios. I don't know if they changed the name. Yeah, this is just post them on the chat so that you can. I think this is the one. This entire series of third person is based on Playmaker, and it's still applicable even though it's 6 years old. I'll just paste the link for one of the videos. What's an easier version that you need to use for a beginner? I mean, like it depends on the current version of Unity and where you learn it from. And the thing is, it's not like Blender where if you learn Blender's UI, if you look at Blender 2015, it looked very weird. And I started learning at 2016, I guess, and now it looks completely different and it's very beginner friendly. And I think like that is one thing that Unity doesn't do is it already has a rework in the UI and it is going in that direction and it is very user friendly. So it doesn't matter which Unity version you start. For a beginner, it'll be all the same. And first jobs in game design, I think like you should look at what do you say as an intern. You can work in a game studio. I think that will be the best place to start, where you understand what they actually do and how much effort is put into every single project. So I'll just consider this as one ammo kind of pickup, or we can also use the other plugin. So by purchase sleep. So we have this survival stylus characters. We have some weapons. So we can throw in some enemies and shoot them, maybe add some ragdoll physics. No, a dev can use Playmaker if he wants something very quick. If you're looking for a rapid prototype, he can use Playmaker. This is just for visualization, and the like the actual coding part can be done later on. But there are games which are published entirely in Playmaker, and they did really well. I design almost everything from scratch, but this I was suggested that in the stream, from the previous stream, people suggested that I do not use anything from scratch and don't make anything from Blender. It is better to use our Unity Asset Store assets, but it depends on like how much time you have. And yeah, I thought of making everything from scratch, but that will be a long process and it'll take a long time. So let me just add some materials and we'll add a quick material for this ammo. For this, let's give it something yellow. maybe using it up yellow and orange because bullets usually have that. And this is just for what do you say, understanding the functionality of it so that while you're making a game, you can do it in different ways. You can either have it as a, if I go here, looks like there is something working here. I think they don't have a good character script because like this is something that you can cross in a first person shooter very easily, but it is as a fact you can't do that. It's actually blocking if I run into it. So that's when you feel like you should use your own assets. Yeah. So once I'm here, we'll just use one FSM to make this ammo pickup. Let's call this ammo pickup. And mouse clicking. And the difference between C# and Playmaker is that you can make things quicker, but it also uses a lot of unnecessary stuff as assets. Like I've seen there is a difference between build sizes in games that I've made from Playmaker and games that are created using C#. So let's say I mouse over, and this is going to be the event. And when we hold the mouse on the ammo, let's display something on the screen. So for that, I'll need to access the existing UI. So I'll just create a UI element as an image and it's in here. And this is going to be a simple image that shows up 0, wherever the cursor is. And this will be our ammo pickup. So since we already have a crosshair, we can modify that. But since this is from an asset pack, it'll be messy because we are modifying it and it'll be connected to some other script somewhere. And that's the reason I'll just change this to, let's say, yeah. I'll just bring it this. I can just put an yellow color. And let's call this ammo indicator. This will be disabled by default, and when we hover, we can just activate this object and specify that ammo indicator. And we'll just use the same mouse click event, but we'll be doing the opposite, where if you go off of this state, you'll go back and the image will be disabled. So let's just test that functionality. So there's one more issue that's going on. As you can see, that's because the cursor is not where the mouse is locked to. So in the script, it's not set correctly. So we'll just use a action from Playmaker so that we can lock it every frame. And this is going to be constantly there for every state. Why are you hiding by default? I didn't get it. So now it's locked. Let's see if it works. But now you can see that the state changes when I move off, but you can see that the image is still there. For that, we'll just say reset on exit. This is the function that allows us to like go back into disabled state. So now we have an indicator that the ammo is being forwarded. So we'll just do that, and this is our forwarding. Do you have to define support for various controllers? Do you mean in specific for Playmaker? If so, then yeah, I mean, like it has a different. I mean, the input system is completely different. While Playmaker has its own, what do you say, get button kind of input, and this is completely linked to whatever input that we have. And let's say this is fire one, and if you go to what's that? Yeah, project settings, and go to input manager. Here you can see all the buttons and which are common for different consoles. As you can see, this is for the console. And yeah, I mean, like it doesn't need to be that complex for Playmaker. Yes, you can. And if you're porting it to Android, I think like you need to make a completely different UI if you're making a FPS for that matter. And you can definitely get there are some events for just touch, and you can specify what happens in which state, and these are what Playmaker extends it to, and you can create your own actions in Playmaker, which people have done, and that is really handy if you're creating something really fast. There's a typewriter action that you can find. I think there's an add-on called ecosystem. So in this ecosystem, you can just quickly import it and show. These are all the actions that are created custom. And I'll just that I'll start with. Let's see the box. Yeah. So this is the address each questions. how are you able to figure out issues so fast that usually takes me a long time to debug when I get issues like this? That's because like I've been what do you say? I've been creating tutorials for it's FPS. Maybe that is just a matter of practice. I have no idea. Like it depends on what kind of projects you work as with. Right? If you're working for an isometric tile map pathfinding, then I won't be able to debug issues that fast because that is completely a new area for me that I haven't explored. And um, global lighting, I have heard of a technique called light baking where we push the light into the texture, which is more viable. Obviously, baking textures is more viable because if you're porting it to Android or low-end devices, it is really good and you'll have that feel. Uh, you can't rely on real lights if you're doing something using real light. So usually what happens is you add all the lights and then they get into a texture and that stays on the environment as soon as you load the level. So that will be another topic. But for now, I think we'll just continue with what we just started and finish off this ammo system. Yeah, so how does baking handle various camera angles? So it's not about the camera angle. I think it's more about what do you say, the directional light in the scene. Let's say if the light is towards this side and you bake the map and you generate the texture, but if you are thinking of what do you say, day and night system, something like that, it won't be viable to have a baked texture because like it'll be dependent on that particular lighting. Right? So there are pros and cons for yeah. It is related to the light sources, and there are some things called reflection probes where you can add what do you say reflectivity and bake it into the scene, and it is a completely different what do you say. It is completely art based, and it's a very complicated thing for me as well. So if you search for, I think Mammoth Interactive has they have a really nice course on lighting. So if you search for lighting in Udemy or any other platform, yeah, even this one is by Game.TV, which I recommend because it is important to know about equally important to know about lighting if you're working for anything related to mobile or if your game is too performance intensive, you need to get that FPS. So that is uh, one thing that people always struggle with. So once we're hovering, we'll just use another event. I'll just call this um, up. And this will be called only when we hit E on the keyboard. So I'll just get a key down. In C#, it's input.e down. And it'll be E and pick up. And here, this should disappear. So it will destroy this object. It should add ammo, but since we're using the plugins ammo system, we can use something in the UI. We can create something ourselves and increase that. That'll be one method. Test it out. So we have that hovering thing, and if I press E, it disappears, and it's not even. So that's the pickup system, and I'll just quickly create a. So since the ammo is here, we can just create something just below that, maybe. And I'll make this white. Now that text. For now, I'm just using the normal legacy text. So let's we have to run 20 ammo for that matter. And once we have that, we can set text. And this is going to I'll just drag the text from there, and here we are looking for UI set text, and the ammo count will be. So since we need to get the ammo count first, I'll just get the text and store it in a variable and say ammo. And this is going to be only one field. And this happens before the ammo object gets deleted, because then it will not be able to do anything. So we'll get the text and we'll do a float operator. And this can be easily done in C# way easier, but there are some places where like Playmaker wins over just because the rapid prototyping elements are better. And let's say we need to add like 50 ammo. We'll start it and we'll store it as. And this is going to be so let's save the scene and start. So move, and it's 20 now. And press E, and it's 70 now. I hope you can see it. Otherwise, I'll just make the. Can you see it? Okay. This is very small. I'll just expand it. Something like that. Okay. So now that's done, we can add some characters. Survival stack characters. And I have some prefabs here. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Let's drag a character. This looks pretty big than the player. I don't know if the ratio is right, because the player looks like a minion. Yeah, he's a giant. So I think we need to either scale up the player, who's it's probably a goblin, or we'll just scale the cut it down. Maybe to something like that. And I hope this is correct. If it's not, like, you have to. Yeah. I'll just play and see if it's correct. Yeah, I don't think it's correct. But what we can do is do something like a particle system, maybe when we hit, and maybe also a body kind of health system where the enemy gets different damage from different places of. Yeah, yeah, looks like this character was not. This character, the camera is situated very low. I think if I do that, maybe it looks good. Yeah, I think that looks better. Yeah, I think that's better. Now we can. So there is something weird about this ammo pickup thing because you can pick up ammo from half the map away. That is um, something that we can change in the script that we create. So this ray distance can be set to something like 10, not 5. We need to see how far the ray goes. And this is, I think, the edge. I think, let's say 2 or 1 for that matter. You need to be really close. I have no idea. That's a super technical question. Yeah, I think this distance is way better because like you need to be at least this close and you can pick that up. So with that done, I think we'll implement the health system for this guy. And we can create a canvas which is a 3D canvas. And this will be main camera, but we don't need to actually do any UI. It's just for display. And I'll just zero down the positions. Fill it up. Maybe just use the width and height. Something like that. And we'll just put it on top of this head. And this will display his health basically. And we can do something. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. You can actually set up some path finding that will just mark this as navigation static in all of these objects as well. You just select whatever needs to be now static. And so these will be the obstacles. And actually, I think, yeah, I think I placed them to below. That's the reason it was really short. Now, if I select the character and add a nav mesh agent, and I'll just reduce the radius a little bit. Maybe make it 5. And height will be the same. I think that's good. If I go to navigation, it's a big. Oh yeah, I forgot to make this static. Now we can see the nav mesh, but apparently he wants to jump on the warehouses, which is weird, but it's fine. There is no cross navigation happening there. I don't think that will be a problem. So there is something wrong with this mesh that is causing this problem. I think that's, let's increase the step height maybe. If we increase the step height, it'll move across it before anything. I'll try to increase the drop height, maybe. Okay, it might be the slope. But I think that's fine. Like it's just a bad mesh that's causing the problem. If you look at it, we can just delete the mesh collider and add our own plane kind of thing, which will work perfectly because mesh colliders also take up a lot of performance. So I'll just quickly add a plane and rotate it, scale it. Yeah, I think that looks perfect. So if you press shift, it will reduce the intensity of how much you're changing the rotation. Yeah, I think that should. Now if I turn off the mesh renderer and we go back to our agent, should be played. I think there is still some issue, but I think we can say it, and it's all about mesh that's causing the issue. I think there are more meshes inside it. Is Playmaker code as efficient as coding it out yourself? No, it's not. It is just for what do you say, making it faster. I don't recommend using it for complex projects. If you're making mobile games, then it's perfect. If you're making small games, then I would I would risk making it in Playmaker because it is really fast and you can get a lot of things done faster if your game mechanics are not that complex. If you're looking for something like writing your own pathfinding, having a editor inside the game, level editor kind of stuff, you can still do it with Playmaker, but you um, you might not be able to modify it as much. So that's something. Can say that this is any help and let's make it, you know, and let's make a white background behind it. This is going to be slightly b minus. So just have the camera. See if I think that's some color issue which is causing the canvas to. Yeah, I think 3D canvases are really weird. It's you just use the help bar and make the anchor 0. If we scale this down, it will look like this. But we want the other way around. So one, and I think this has happened. This was happening because it is in the wrong direction. Maybe please try it. That works. It's something to do with Cullen, and we can find it in this. Okay, let's not worry about that. But the health is something that we can scale in the x-axis. So we can just write a script to scale it whenever the enemy gets hurt. And we can also do something like um, having a text for how much health he has. Let's just make it white and add the same sort of text here. Um, We'll just put it on 100. And this can be reduced whenever we shoot the daily. No, that's not possible. Let's just see how it looks on the 3D. I think that if laid on full screen, it will look clearer. Now what we can do is make this guy follow the player wherever the player is, and that can be done using the nav mesh. So before creating this prefab, before creating that script, I just unpack the prefab completely and run a custom. Say pathfinding, so it's a pathfinding, we're just finding the player. So here, when let's say this user destination. So for that, we need to add what's called a custom action that's been designed only for nav mesh. So this serves for nav mesh for the data. And get this particular package. So this package will help us make Playmaker access the Unity pathfinding system. And yeah. So everything in the ecosystem is created by either the community of who use Playmaker, or it's done by the Playmaker publishers. I'll just say citation destination, and we can find it now. And this is going to be a vector 3. But we need something like an object. So let's go to the player and we'll just add a quick FSM, which gets the position and stores it on the vector. So we'll just call this, and we better make it a global variable. This is basically public. Any public variable that we put in this called a global variable in Playmaker. So I'll just call it player position. It's going to be this world space. So we can't modify that, but we can access it through here, and we'll just get player position. And here we can control stopping distance. So let's say if the guy is 2 units away, he'll just stop. And this is going to be continuous. So we'll just try and put him far away, somewhere like that. And let's see if the mesh is allowing us to do this. We might have to increase the radius, maybe something like that. Yeah, I think now it's fixed. It's better. But there are certain things that are bad with the mesh. As I said, like it's because of these assets. And yeah, we're just placing towards this side. And we'll have the same view just as a minimap kind of thing. And we'll place the player over here. And we'll just wait, sit and wait. We'll see if the end is working towards us. Looks like he is. Yeah, we can see him. So, and should stop at 2 distance too. And he still looks like a giant. So this is not continuous, and I think there is another script that makes it continuous. So that and We can also do something like if you reached, if the player reached, if the NPC reached, it will check if the player's distance is more than a custom value, and it goes on that pursuit again. So that's one. What if we were to make a what about does Unity have fluids as well? Uh, are you familiar with Blender's what do you say fluids or I I I don't think we can simulate fluids in Unity using the existing default things, but there are certainly assets you can find on the asset store. Yeah, I don't know how it works for Unreal, but it is basically a visual simulation. But this is just the noise being what to say noise being translated on a mesh, and that's basically the wave simulation that we can see. So in Blender, it is quite nice, better. So if I were to create a plane, we can add a post modifier, and before that, I'll just like scale. There's something called the modifier, and this instantly gives us something to work with. Yeah, in the modifiers, you can change the resolution. Resolution intensifies the performance. I'm constantly using the Unity shortcuts because I just switched, which is so annoying sometimes. And we can use time to simulate the waves and also depth. This is quite interesting for if you're learning Blender, then it's really useful. It is actually really impressive, the placement, and you can create your own kind of texture and put it on the mesh to simulate an ocean, which is nice. Yeah, it's just a mesh model that is being blend shaped. So if you wanted a facial animation, you can export it from any like Blender to Unity, and you'll find blend shapes in Unity, which are basically something like shape modifiers for skin and Unity. Let's say you want a character to smile, so you can simulate that in that. Like there are certain aspects that Blender has an edge over. Yeah. So with that done, we can also actually give him a weapon, maybe. But if we give him a weapon, we need to actually animate him. But we could do just dummy kind of shooting. I don't want to do that, but because it will look very unrealistic. But we can always use snap his legs for underneath the mesh the whole time. So he's actually a sound. Yes, you actually animate the noise value, and I think that I think the sloping kind of mechanism, and also that I chose asset which is having a slope. It's because I mean like it's causing all these problems. But I think we should be fine. We'll just implement this health system for the enemy, and we'll make him stop maybe some 10 and see if he actually shows up in front of us. Yeah, he's. I think that's fair enough. Just down, and we can implement that checking value if you can actually see it. That's completely AI stuff that we can do, where it shoots a ray from the enemy to the player towards the player because the player is already a public variable, and if it doesn't hit the player, if we are looking at player and if we are not hitting the player, that literally means that we are on our way and there is some kind of obstacle. So we need to go further away and then maybe decrease the stopping distance so that we can actually see the player. So that is one method to cheat cheat the players and get something smart from Namesh. Yeah, I think we can implement the shooting system and get some health off of this guy. So I'll just quickly add a capsule collider, I guess. Again. And the height that much. Maybe that. And 60 by value. So that it fits the person. Actually, let's make it 2. And I think that's good for now. Reduce the radius to 3. Okay. So this is going to be our enemy. So we don't have an enemy tag. So we'll just start an enemy tag. Okay. And let's just save it. Let's see how bullets work in the game. If we are actually instantiating a bullet, or I don't think that's something. Yeah, I think there's a bullet. So just quickly pause. Just trying to pause when the bullet is actually caught. Yeah, got it. So this is the bullet, and let's see if it is actually a 3D object. It has a box collider, but yeah, I think they're just using a box collider to use bullet holes. Let's see if it creates any bullet holes. I don't think it's creating bullet holes, but still, I will not use it, and we'll just use our own shooting system that will implement. And for this state, I'll just call it player position. So this is just going to player position, and I'm just starting mechanism for shooting. And for now, we'll just see if we can integrate the shooting system into a particular script. I think that can be done. We just need to get the prompts put down, and whenever we click, we send it. Sure. This is going to be so we actually create a prefab, which is not the actual prefab that this concept pack is using. So I'll just create a folder for prefabs and maybe create a small empty object, or 3D object, call it bullet. So I'll just give it some run. Otherwise, I'll just add a new tag for bullet. This is going to have some black metal kind of and we can just maybe small, maybe something like that. So you can barely see. We can also add something like a particle system, which will be really cool. I think also metal. So you can reduce the speed of which your camera is moving. Unity, and then like you can get really close to whatever you're working. So that's really handy thing I find about working with Unity. So I'll just use the ammo thing to do the back of the bullet, fun sake, and just create an empty object. And this is going to be the holder for both of the bullet and the back of it. And then we can. So I'll just call this one bullet. And yeah, I mean, all the tags should be black, and so that we can just delete this one and have only this particular collider, because having no collider is always reduces your game FPS. And once we do that, we can just start a simple script to the bullet saying translate, which is just go forward, do nothing else. Speed of 100, play, which should be traveling very fast. Let's see what it is. 65 ms away, and that's a bullet. So I'll just maybe we can also make it really fun by making it slow, which is weird. Let's just shoot it this side, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't see it, but yeah, I think that works. But I'll just save it in the prefabs, and this will be good. There is no system in Unity which applies the current scale and current rotation, which is kind of sad because in most 3D let's say applications, you have that property which can be used for really handy stuff. If we are making something specific, so I'm gonna just delete this prefab, and this is going to be spawned exactly in front of the player's weapon. So let's see if we can create something in front of the player's weapon. Just pause. Okay. And look at the different so this is the new gun to the gun object, and we can spawn the bullet here, which can be super realistic, but I think it should be spawned from the camera's center because that's where it will go to. And this Z's forward is not exactly this Z forward. So just create this bullet prefab in front of the player, and let's see if we can actually hit some bullets onto the enemies. So this is going to be create object and C#, I guess, instantiate. We can use a lot of methods and just search for bullet. This is the prefab that we're looking for. And this one point will be exactly on the camera. And we'll see if this actually works by default. But I'm not expecting it to work. But let's see if there is something that, as you can see, I think this is okay. Fine. So let's pause and see when it is last bullet. I think it's so we can also delete the bullet as soon as possible. That is what the prefab. Wait, do a wait even, and this is going to wait for maybe like 2 seconds, and then let's go. I'll save it, and so now if we can see that the bullets that we are spawning are instantly being stored. So that is something that is going good, but we don't have something very important in the bullet that can be compensated by adding a rigid body. And this is going to be simply an all freezed rigid body that we are not going to use, and we'll check for continuous detection. No gravity. So once we have that, we can go back to the scene and go to the character. So we have another FSM here to check if collided. So just call it collision, and I'll say collision event. And this is when the enemy enters into collision with a bullet, will tag the object, and that's the bullet. So we'll send an event to reduce health. And this is a canvas under the same character. So for now, we'll directly access it. But if we're doing it for prefab, we might have to go for child called canvas. So that is one way of reaching this help object. And yeah, I think we can reduce the scale depending on that. We can also, however, change this based on, let's say this is an image, and this is, let's say, a background, which is kind of weird, but I'll just get to what I mean in a moment. So let's say it's to, and this is not the sprite that we're going to use, but this is going to be filled horizontal, and now we can control the direct value. So that is one thing that is usually used in FPS games instead of this one. So for this, I'll just create a small texture very quickly. Let's handle itself. Yes. This is fillet. If we fill it with white and export it, we can change the color further in Unity. That's the only reason we'll be using white. And it's just stay with us. But now we go to assets, and let's create a folder for UI. Let's run the health bar. So this image right here can be a health bar, and before that, configure it to be a sprite. And now if I change it to fill horizontal, we can fill it, and we can rotate it back. Yeah, rotate it by 180 so that it will be on the right direction, or I should have just changed this one. Yeah. So since that is done, we can synchronize the health value. Is it getting boring, or are you guys still here? I'm just thinking if okay. Do you mean it's getting boring, or like we can change the topic and go explore some other mechanic inside FPS if you want to. If this is kind of a thing, you know what I mean? Okay, sure. So I'll just create a variable for the character, and let's just call this health system instead of collision, which is very vague. And this will be our int as our health. So once we get hit by a bullet, it should reduce this from 100. I'll just set the value to 100, and this is going to be subtract float. So here we are using an int, but it is better to use a float in this case. Or we can just use the int subtract and maybe take 10 points for each hit, and not every frame. And yeah, once it is done, we'll have a small delay because what if the enemy is getting bombarded with a lot of bullets? So we just use a small wait statement and maybe like 0.5 seconds go back to the first state. And let's just test how this even shows up because we need to see whether the health reflects. So I'll just go to variables and keep this in my site. And we can see that the health is reducing as I hit the enemy. We can also do something like, and you can see that it's 0 now. Yeah, and that's when the death animation comes in, but we don't have any animations for this characters for now. We can implement it for later on. But yeah, I think what we can do is get the health. Let's just value, which makes more sense. And we'll just set UI text. And we're going to specify health value. Convert the, and this is just the number that we're showing. And depending on this number, we can change the health bar's value. So I'll just get the date. This is just going to take value set and get but yeah, get text, UI get text. So this is going to be from health value. And I'll just store it in a text variable. This is health string with str. String to float. Actually, the other way around. To float. Okay, maybe there's no direct way to do that, but yeah, I think we can work with string to int first, and there's going to be a health int, and I don't know, this is the weird part about Playmaker is that like some actions are missing, and you can't find something like string to float, but you can find int to float, which is weird. I mean, like string to int. Now we can convert this to float. Into float. So now we have help int, help float. And this is just for the sake of not having that script, but so this float, we are going to go for an end operator. We'll check if okay, so float operator. This is going to be an help float divided by 100. Divided by 100, is it correct? Yeah. Since this fill value is 1, 100 by 100 is 1. So that's main health. So many variables, but yeah, I think it's something which is required for this weird process. But now we can go to the image, to UI, and set fill amount. And this is going to be our health gain. Let's just test if this whole thing is working. Give me a second. So it looks like it's working. But the thing is, it will go to minus, but there'll be no fill because fill's minimum is 0. Yeah, I think that's yeah, I think that brings us to a point where we have some mechanics implemented. And there are gaps between these for some reason, but it's looking good. We need to change the characters for the enemies because they don't have any animations, or either I'll try to rig them in Mixamo or some kind of service. So that will help us create some animations like dying animation. You can find a lot of no cap animations. I don't think on the Mixamo site it's the with that. Dying is so dramatic, but it will still work. Yeah, I think the basic shooter pack or something. This will do perfectly because there's even grenade animations in it, which is super cool. It has 16 animations. Right. So we can upload the character, and I can in the next stream I'll replace this with a rigged character, the same one, but it'll be all rigged in Mixamo, and we can use it for better visual interaction, and it will probably shoot back at us. So that is the agenda for the next part of the stream in this FPS series. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Do you have any questions regarding anything related to Unity or Playmaker? I'll be happy to answer. Hey, thanks, man. That means a lot. Yeah, I think Unity is comparatively not that spoon-fed with lighting and some visual aspects compared to Unreal. Yeah, that is completely the point of this stream. Is to hey, I forgot to answer some questions. Is this scale system in Unity? Okay, are you asking about um, the scale as in the dimensions kind of scale? Thank you, Aditya. Yeah, I didn't quite get that question. I think you were asking about the scale system as in like the dimensions so that you can set the real world data. Yeah, I don't think that's there, but you can find references. I think in Unity forums where real world dimensions Unity, and since it is used in what do you say, maybe AR projects and stuff, I think there should be some sort of yeah. It is 1 meter and 1 unit apparently. I think you can find that related stuff to see in the forums. I'll just paste the link here. Yeah. Okay. If you guys have no questions, then I'll just wrap it up and I'll schedule the new stream and we'll be working on some really cool mechanics. Yeah, and we'll be moving forward with the enemy and making him shoot us using the animations from XML. So I might show the entire process also because it is a really vital tool when it comes to making your own characters. So we'll be exploring Miximo as well in the next stream where we'll get our characters rigged and have some animations on them. Yeah, I think that's basically it for the stream. And thank you very much. Bye. Have a nice. Have a nice.